So the 15-minute city is sweeping the globe, if you believe in that. This is the new globalist bid to get people to remain stuck in their own local areas. Penned in, prevented from traveling, easy to control. Sometimes it goes by different names like smart cities. But the idea is always the same. Fancy words to trick people into thinking that the less freedom and more power for the government is what will make them and their lives great and happy. Jason Preston is a former Utah congressional candidate. He recently had a viral showdown with Utah Governor Spencer Cox over Cox's support for these smart cities. Preston approached Cox at a convention last Saturday and began asking some unwanted but legitimate questions. Cox wasn't too happy about it. Take a look.
Tell me your thoughts on the smart cities that you're working on.
What smart city?
Smart city, yeah.
I don't know what smart city is.
Come join us for Sandbag one at the point
No, it's not a smart city. I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what you're talking about? No, we're going
Sure.
to.
I know what you're trying to do. I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know?
There's no such thing as a smart city.
You have it on your
So
website.
stop making up stuff.
Why do you
Okay?
have
To try to make me look bad. You're really good at this. You make up and then you try to make us
It's
look
on your own
bad.
website.
Okay.
How about
I don't have a website about this.
Why don't you have a conversation with that?
Because you don't like to have real conversations.
I'm right here asking for a
And
why don't you come on?
I just told you that there's no such thing as a smart city.
Okay, so that conversation goes on for a few more minutes. We'll post the entire thing on our Twitter account as well as at stewpeters.com. It's actually quite entertaining. There's no such thing as a smart city, Cox says. Stop making stuff up. Well, if Cox didn't want to be asked about these smart cities, these 15-minute cities, then he shouldn't have spoken at a smart cities luncheon back in December. He shouldn't be promoting digital driver's licenses. And if Cox isn't aware, at this very moment, developers are trying to develop a 15-minute city from scratch in Utah named The Point. If he's not aware of that at all, then he's negligent in his office. But more likely, he's just lying as part of the empire of lies. Jason Preston and his wife, Alexia, join us now. This was quite the interaction. I mean, this guy I don't know anything about what you're talking about. I mean, explain, what's the evidence that he is lying here, that he does know exactly what you're talking about? And by the way, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Stu. Appreciate being on this evening with you.
Of course.
Yeah, it was a little shocking to see the way he responded. Obviously he's all over this. I mean, he's got it all over the governor's website. He's very involved. Obviously, you see where he's giving a luncheon on smart cities. That's why I approached him about it. And the irony is for him to explode like that and just go off lying. It's like, what does he expect? People aren't going to look into this. And honestly, I think it's a good thing, because it's so clear that there's something he's trying to hide, that I really think people are going to start looking into what are smart cities? What is this? And I think people need to understand what's happening here.
Yeah. So give your interpretation of what he's trying to develop right in your state of Utah.
Well, I really think the greatest way to looking at Utah is you look at, we are a very red state, and we have a lot of great conservatives in this state. But when you look at Utah and you look at Governor DeSantis or Governor Cox versus a DeSantis, you've got two completely different breeds of Republicans.
Maybe, DeSantis kind of abandoned his state. He's running around running a proxy campaign right now. He's spending a lot more time on Israeli soil than he is here in our country. So I don't really know. I mean, I think that DeSantis is probably not a fair comparison, but I understand what you're saying. I mean, you have.
Well, put it this way: we've got a governor that wants to go around using his pronouns. That's pushing for men in our girls' locker rooms, pushing the transgender stuff. I mean, we have a governor that wants Utah to be progressive.
Yeah.
That wants the digital driver's license. That wants smart cities. That wants more facial recognition. He claimed in that video that he's never heard of the World Economic Forum either, even though we have a picture of his website where it had a logo of the World Economic Forum on there. So, this is a guy who talks about honesty. On one hand, talks about being nice and not being contentious, and then flat out lies. He put a hit piece out on us in the Salt Lake Tribune, saying that we attacked him, saying that I've attacked other
Yeah,
politicians.
but that's what it is, though.
He's
I mean, when you
talking about.
confront anyone that represents the empire of lies, certainly that is perceived as an attack. It's an attack on the globalist agenda. It's an attack on full Marxism, communism, authoritarianism, the one world governance, the Great Reset, the Agenda 2030, the World Economic Forum, Satan, over there, Klaus Schwab and his demonic sycophants. And this guy is one of them. If he didn't know what the World Economic Forum was, then why would it be on his website? And if it's on his website and he's lying about not knowing what the World Economic Forum, what would be his justification for lying? Why doesn't he want to be associated with the World Economic Forum if that's something that he's so proud of?
Yeah.
This conversation actually continued after this clip ended with another gentleman who continued to ask him about his knowledge or awareness of not only the World Economic Forum, but also Klaus Schwab, which he also denied knowing anything about. So the lies just keep coming out of Governor Cox. And what was very interesting about this event, this was actually the Utah State Convention, which was keynoted by Ron DeSantis. So earlier just that day, you had about an hour-long presentation by Governor DeSantis where he was very well received in Utah. And he was followed by Governor Cox, who was mostly booed when he came on stage. So you had a pre-agitated Governor Cox, which definitely reflected in his attitude when he was confronted later that day by Jason. So not only was he just spewing lies, but he was also reacting to the fact that he was not well received at all by the state convention.
Yeah, I think we're
that says a lot. I mean, the world in general, but here, our country, Americans overwhelmingly reject the idea of authoritarian control and smart cities and 15-minute cities and lockdowns and masking and mandates and, tyrannical teachings in our school, perverted teachings in our school by freak shows wearing wigs and that are cartoonish characters of the opposite sex and convincing kids to chop their penis off and pretend that they're a woman or, hate their own skin color or hate themselves if they happen to be white. I mean, it's all nonsense. This is what people are talking about at their dinner tables. And so what does he expect to be well received? Like he's some sort of a champion for freedom? I mean, clearly he's part of the plan to install an authoritarian, illegitimate regime in this country. And that's what we have to fight back state by state. A lot of people, and maybe you two can help us with this, I think that the audience of this show and yours needs to really be educated because the media props up certain figures. Okay, DeSantis was well received. There's a perfect example. I mean, Fox is propping him up. Okay, so he's the champion of freedom. So be it, whatever. But they focus on the shiny object, which is the presidential election. They focus on, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's war with Marjorie Taylor Greene, when really this is just a uniparty battling back and forth. It's pro wrestling. It's all theatrics. Everybody's kind of playing their role in this movie that we're seeing. So the attention is obviously drawn to national politics, but our federal government doesn't mean jack if we just completely ignore them and we defeat them at the state level. So what I'm talking about is 3 to 5 constitutional sheriffs in each state, taking back these state houses, having, 20 to 30 America First governors, and even more important than the governor, attorneys general across this country. And really, that's an easy battle for Americans to win at the state level. And then we just make the federal government completely obsolete, which then will have the next executive in power more the ability to slash that bureaucracy by 90%. Your thoughts on that?
No, you're 100% right. And that's where our focus is it is time to win our backyard. And the key is we've got to put a constitutional wall around our states. But you need a governor who stands for those things, who is America first, who will put Utah first, not seek to be a henchman for these globalists. And that's what we have here in Utah. And it's that's our frustration is we have a lot of great people in this state, but you have a governor and you have a leadership who says the highest value is being kind and being tolerant, not truth, not protecting our children. And so we've got a Republican Party here, but our Republican Party has really been taken over. It's basically the Republican and Democratic Party mixed together. It's rhinos. But because they use nice words, because they all go to the same church, because they're Republicans, the public just lets them get away with anything. Meanwhile, they're building an inland port here in Utah. They're building 15-minute cities, and it's all documented on our websites. And that's why we're encouraging people to go to our channel and look at this stuff, because the last thing we want to do is throw out allegations. What we want is here's what they're doing, and here's the bill they're passing it in. Here's on their website. Everything needs. And the thing is this, Stu. You can't roll out this stuff, what they're trying to do at a global level, without documentation. And the documentation is there. And people can come to our YouTube channel. They can come to our Rumble channel and see it. And in fact, Stu, what we're really asking is, look, Governor Cox, if there's really nothing to see here, instead of throwing us under the bus, instead of lying, why don't you come on and have a conversation? We are after the truth. We're not after theories. We are after the truth. And if we're missing something here, please come on and let's talk about it.
Yeah, tell me exactly how it is that my eyes are lying to me. Don't believe your lying eyes. How am I supposed
when it's
to
on your own
believe-
website?
Yeah, it's on your own website. I'm seeing it right in front of me. But this is how they gaslight you into trying to make you sound debased and like some radical conspiracy fringe idea theorist of some sort, so they can try to delegitimize you. And the only thing that you're doing is actually growing your audience. By the way, I will remind people it's in Utah's constitution. Do you know about your state's constitutions? Ladies and gentlemen, have you read your own state's constitution? Yeah, every state's got a constitution. It's in Utah's constitution that you would be derelict in your duties if you allowed for this to continue. And it's in the American Constitution that you'd be derelict in your duties as an American if you allowed this overtaking to happen. Yes, once a government becomes oppressive to one's God-given, inherent, inalienable rights, you would be derelict in your duties if you did not abolish it and replace it with a form of government that is representative of the people. Read your state's constitution, especially in Utah, and make sure Governor Cox knows that you're watching. More of the Stu Peters Show in 60 seconds.